Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Dean, Hassan, and Willem. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday evening before we gear up for our Carabao Cup final on Sunday. Hopefully, everybody's in good spirits no matter where you are in the world. Before we get into everything, though, just a small bit of housekeeping. If you wouldn't mind, please do make sure to like and subscribe. You've helped us hit 10,000 subscribers so far. Please help us hit our next goal, which would be 12,500 or even 15,000 if you're going to be that generous and everybody starts subscribing. Make sure you have your notification bell on for all of our future videos and streams so that you never miss out on anything. We're live every day from 7:30 p.m. UK time. We have our American stream that's live at 2 a.m. UK time, which is about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have our post-match stream on Sunday at about 5 p.m. UK time. That's after Liverpool lift the Carabao Cup against Chelsea, which we will all be very much looking forward to, and I can't wait for. But before that, we will get into a couple of bits of news, namely about Xabi Alonso, in that there's been reports that have come out that have said that he's within Leverkusen circles, he's not necessarily leaning towards Bayern, purely because of the sort of merry-go-round of calamities that's going on behind the scenes and on the football pitch currently at the moment. Those rumours that came out that Thomas Tuchel didn't necessarily want Goretzka or Kimmich in his team and tried to sell them last summer, but they never got the deal done. Their deal for Paulina fell through, and then he was kind of left stuck with those two players, which is why some of them are really falling out with him at the moment. Kimmich just doesn't really have a great feeling for him at the moment at all. But the feeling necessarily is that Liverpool seems to be, hilariously, the safe option, when one would assume that it's Bayern being in the Bundesliga and they have won it nearly 10 years in a row now at this stage. But hilariously, a possible Liverpool manager is about to beat them again, same as what happened 10 years ago. But it's an interesting one, Dean, because it's not always that you'd consider instability a part of Bayern Munich, but it seems to have creeped in the last number of years. With managers not being given enough time, you have Julian Nagelsmann, you have Thomas Tuchel now that's been sacked before the season has even finished, but they're still going to let him see out the season. That's very unusual as well. Normally they send people on gardening leave. Take a look at what happened with the Newcastle sporting director as well. He was sent on gardening leave because they're expecting him to leave in the summer. But give us a couple of your thoughts on that article that came out. It's just, he's not necessarily all that, Alonso that isn't necessarily all that impressed with Bayern Munich and how they're being operated at the moment as a comparison to Liverpool.
Yeah, it's quite a major thing going down in Germany at the moment. So Bayern Munich has always been the mainstay, as in, we always know they win the league virtually every year. They are the beacon of stability on the pitch, but clearly off the pitch they aren't at the moment. They've gone through quite a few managers recently, as you said. Trying to remember the last manager they had for him for a good few years. I know obviously Guardiola was in there for a good few years, but they brought back an old manager, didn't they, for a couple of years where he steadied the boats again, and then they tried to pass the torch on again, and it's just not worked. I can see why they've asked Tuchel to basically get to the end of the season. I think it could be a case of we need to actually take time on this next decision to bring somebody in rather than rushing it around, basically, repeating the same mistakes. But from the outside looking in, if you're Alonso, you're going right. So my next step has to be with certainty, with minimal risk as possible, really, because the stock is extremely high. It's probably as high as it could be at the moment, realistically. You want to go into a stable base again, or as stable as it could be, and you're looking between these two options, because at the end of the day, he's only ever going to have three options. If Real were there wanting him, and then it was obviously Boston Bayern as well. And I've always said this, Liverpool tick more boxes from the outside looking in, just because of the squad being the way it is at the moment. In comparison to Bayern Munich, it's a bit of a mess. It's just come out that Davies is looking likely he's going to Madrid next season as well, regardless of who comes in. So that's another problem they're going to have. There's a bit of a tug of war up in the ownership as well in regards to Bayern Munich. There's a lot of things going on, and would you want to walk into that at the moment? Probably not. I know some managers would take the hit on it, like Zidane and all that, because they've got the reputation to fall back on. Alonso has got a good record at the moment, but it's only based off 18 months of work. That could easily be broken. So I think it will come down to a case of either stay at Leverkusen or come to Liverpool. I'm hopeful he will come to Liverpool at the end of it. But I think I think Bayern Munich are kind of ruling themselves out. I think they're pushing it in the media that they want him to try anything to destabilise Leverkusen, which, as Phil just mentioned, they are winning after 3 minutes. So currently 11 points clear, which is absolute madness, in all honesty. And he even back Leipzig to beat them tomorrow, beat Bayern Munich, because they are just that much of a mess on the pitch at the moment. Players, like I say, falling out with a manager. Well, there's no certainty around the club. Players don't even really want to be there at the moment. Half of the players just have been there that long that they don't fight for it, or is it a case of just squad harmony's broken? So, like I say, just a lot of things just not going right for them, which is quite fun.
Yeah, but it's unusual, Willem, when you think about it. Like, Bayern has for the longest time been a pillar of stability in the Bundesliga. It's been them and everybody else has been fighting for second. And now all of a sudden the foundations seem to be cracking and shaking, and it looks like it's ready for what American teams and American franchises would consider blowing the roster up and just restarting again and trying to go again. There seems to be some aging players. You have Thomas Muller, who's still on that team. You have, obviously, as Dean mentioned, you have Alphonso Davies, who's probably going to go on the cheap to Real Madrid. They're looking to drive down the price purely because he's a year left in his deal. Bayern are expecting him to leave. So even the promise of a new manager coming in isn't going to keep him there. You then have, obviously, Kimmich and Goretzka, who aren't necessarily liked by the current manager. Who knows what manager comes in? Like, there could very realistically be a fire sale at Bayern and they could go down 1-1 to between Leverkusen and who are they playing?
Mainz.
That's hilarious considering that's the team that Klopp managed as well. But it's odd, and it's almost frightening to see the person who's been there the longest. Similar, I'd imagine, is what a lot of people would have assumed about United when they kind of fell apart after 2013 with everything that's been going on over there and is still going on over there. Do you have any worry about Bayern swooping in and getting him for any stability, or do you think, on paper at least, Liverpool is still the more enticing option?
No, I've actually not been worried about it at all, but more in the sense because I think as well, for a bit of context, in general here in Spain, Xabi Alonso is known as to be and I think as well for us Liverpool fans, we also know him as that way. But he's known to be a very classy guy. He doesn't really go for moves that would maybe piss off one of the clubs that have given him an opportunity or that have really given him the best chance to go for something. And I personally just couldn't at any point see him go from Leverkusen to Bayern after Leverkusen have given him the opportunity to build up his managerial reputation that he has now. So in that sense as well, I kind of just haven't been too worried about it. And in my opinion, we have always been the more attractive option on paper. And Bayern has just been slowly becoming more and more of a mess over the past couple of years. I think ever since they won the Champions League with Flick as their coach, it's just gradually been going down a little bit. It started off with Lewandowski obviously leaving at first, kind of giving them that gaping hole up front, which was getting filled up by Choupo-Moting. And slowly from there, it just seems like every little piece of harmony they had within the club, both within the squad, within the managerial side, and the up in the front office, has just completely vanished. It's all gone. It seems to be a battle between Khan and I think it's Nunez, who's the other one as well. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on it. But they seem to be in a bit of a stranglehold with each other about who's making the decisions going forward. Yeah. And I mean, as we all know, once you get instability upstairs, it'll tipple down downstairs. And yeah, so I also in that sense, I just can't see him. For me, honestly, it comes down to this, where either I think he stays at Leverkusen or he joins us. I can't really see him do anything else.
Yeah, it is coming down to that. Alan mentions here, Hassan, that if they win the league this year, which is, I'm assuming he's referring to Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen, if they win the league this year, and it looks likely, it does look likely with them currently 9 points clear at the moment, drawing 1-1 to Mainz at the moment. And if he goes to Munich, he's hiding, I'm assuming as well, Alan has mentioned here, to nothing in the sense that he'll be expected to win the league, so he can only fail or do what's expected. That's exactly it. Like Bayern are expected to win the league every year, Hassan. Whereas if he came to the Premier League, as funny as it is to say, there's less pressure on the Liverpool job than there is on the Bayern Munich job, because Bayern Munich are expected to win the league every year, year in, year out, and possibly win the Deutsche Pokal as well, and compete deep into the Champions League also. So they're expected to run deep into those competitions. They don't have as many games. It seems to be the easier ride. But at the same time, Liverpool seems to come with an awful lot less pressure. And that's hilarious to think about, considering we're one of the biggest clubs in the world. But if we finish second, win a Champions League or win a European Cup or win 2 of the domestic cups, we wouldn't consider it a successful season, but we wouldn't be mad at it either, considering we know we're competing against a financially doping team that's in Man City. So we know that's a caveat straight away, and we understand that the Champions League is a seriously hard thing to win, but he gets us to a semi-final or a final, and even if we lose, like, it's would you consider Liverpool the job with less pressure, or would you consider Bayern the job with less pressure?
No, for me it's us, because he will be coming in after Klopp, and being a former player, we will give him more time as compared to Bayern, who, as you said, will be expected to win their league, and the league is expected, and they expect that they go in the Champions League far deeper. So, and as we all said, we are lucky that if Klopp went last season and we were looking for a manager, it would have been difficult. Now the Klopp has built the team, and it's a more attractive job to come in and compete in. So I think that will be, and for if he stays at Leverkusen for one more season, I don't think in next season maybe these type of opportunities will come for him. This Liverpool job is once in a lifetime opportunity for him, and it is coming in a perfect time. He's in a hot streak, so he should grab this opportunity by both hands.
Yeah, it is, because this Liverpool job, if it goes to another manager, will not be around for another 10, maybe 15 years, one would hope. Klopp has been there for nearly 9 years now at this point. 8 years, he's in his 8th year. He's going to leave it. He was meant to stay for nearly 9 years, if not 10. But obviously, he's announced that he's leaving at the end of the season, a year before his deal is up. But it is, as you mentioned, Hassan, a once in a lifetime opportunity, especially for a former player who's loved by the city, who loves the city himself, who is loved by the fan base, who would already be welcomed in by the fan base, and whose stock right now couldn't be any higher. If he waits a year and Leverkusen have a fallback year, his stock plummets, and he's known as a 1 year wonder, unfortunately, in the eyes of like, yesterday's price is not today's price, and his stock would fall massively. And he's done very well coming from Real Sociedad and then going straight to Leverkusen as well. And he's only been there 18 months now. At this point, he'd be at the end of his second season this year. And he's brought them from near relegation to winning a league. Like, it's clearly a massive turnaround for them, and his stock could not be higher. So you may as well strike while the iron is hot. The funny thing is about it, that Bayern job will be there in 5-6 years' time. They rotate and churn out managers as if it's fun. The Real Madrid job will be there in a couple of years' time when
Ancelotti.
When Ancelotti goes. Ancelotti will probably be there for another 3-4 years. If at that point Alonso comes, tries his project with us, isn't a fan of it, and then goes, I can't really fault him for that myself. I'd like him to stay longer, but if he comes and we don't win anything with him and then he moves on and we find somebody else, look, there'll be another manager that rolls around. But as it stands at this moment, the stars seem to have aligned. To answer a couple of questions from the chat, Jamie Hughes, a little bit late to the chat. What's the synopsis on Alonso? He is currently a little bit concerned over what's going on with Bayern at the moment, with the sort of carousel of bad decisions with the front office, as Willem was mentioning earlier, with Oliver Kahn having disputes with other members of the front office and them just having a bit of discontent. There's certain players that Thomas Tuchel didn't want, such as Kimmich and Goretzka. He tried to sell them last year. The Paulinho deal didn't fall through. He didn't like them as his CDMs or his midfielders. He wanted to get rid of them. Now he's stuck with them. Kimmich isn't getting game time with them. He's not really a fan of Tuchel himself. And that's essentially it. And it just seems to be a bit of instability in what has otherwise been a very, very stable franchise in Bayern. And I completely agree with Paul, as I don't understand why Tuchel would hang on till the end of the season. If he's told they don't want him going forward, why not leave now? That is probably the best question of the lot, because I realistically don't know, Paul. It's funny because, like, if you take a look at the sporting director for Newcastle, there was a bit of tampering that went on with Man United in Newcastle, and he was placed on gardening leave because he's planning on leaving. And for anybody that doesn't know what gardening leave is essentially you're basically put on paid holidays until your contract is up, to not further damage the team by any decisions that you may make in malice or by leaking confidential information that may be coming through about new transfers and new players. So that's why. So essentially, he's told, go on, off on your holidays now till you're done with your contract and you can leave. Essentially, that's basically what gardening leave is. I only found this out earlier this week, so that's your word of the day, gardening leave. But it's really, really interesting. I don't, Alan mentions here as well, look, he's unfinished business with Liverpool in the Premier League. That he very much does. He's won a Champions League with us. Why not come back and win another one as a manager? Or why not come and win a Premier League, something he hasn't done yet? He's won plenty of Champions Leagues, plenty of La Ligas, plenty of Bundesligas, but none with Liverpool. But hopefully he sees us as the more likeable option, so to speak. But it is, I think it's strike while the iron is hot, and he should be good to go with ourselves. But that is more or less all the news that we do have on Alonso. Hopefully that we do see him signing a Liverpool contract come the summertime, because that would be absolutely amazing. Do you know what would actually be even better? The two teams to meet in Dublin and he signs the contract after the game. That'd be brilliant. I just love that. That'd be the dream right there. Sign the contract in Dublin. I'd love it. But before we move on to our next topic, just please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have so, we really, really appreciate it. It's very much appreciated. It always helps the channel going forward. Make sure as well, if you are subscribed, that you have your notification bell on for all future videos and streams so that you never miss out. Live every day from 7:30 UK time. We have our American stream that's on every Tuesday evening. It'll be 2 a.m. UK time, but it would also be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have our post-game stream at 5 p.m. UK time on Sunday following Liverpool's win in the Carabao Cup. Yes, I am from the future, and yes, I have predicted a win. Considering that the last game against Luton, I called it before the goal went in that it was going to be a set piece, and it was going to be Van Dijk that scored it, and 10 minutes later, Van Dijk scores the first goal. Should be taking bets. But we'll move on to the next topic, and that is, funnily enough, Sunday, as I mentioned it, with certain players arriving back to the AXA training centre. We've seen pictures of Darwin Nunez. We've seen pictures of Mo Salah. Sadly, no pictures of Diogo Jota because his knee has exploded. I joke, it hasn't. It's just a strain. He's going to be out for 2 months. There has been updates from Pep Linders on players coming back. We've Dominic Szoboszlai, we have Mo Salah, and we have Darwin Nunez, who are game time decisions for Sunday. That's essentially where they're at. Their day-to-day is what Pep Linders mentioned. The likes of Curtis Jones, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Diogo Jota, and Alisson Becker are not expected back until after the international break, which crucially sees them all miss the Man City game that occurs the weekend before the international break. The reason I say the weekend before is because we may skip our Everton game on Paddy's Day, purely because if we win against Southampton next week, that game becomes a blank game week, and our Everton game then gets pushed to one of the last 2 weeks of the season. So we could very much end up winning the Premier League in Goodison Park and also sending Everton to the Championship in the same day. And I'm pretty sure the Merseyside River will need to be decontaminated after that. It's sort of an episode. But Thoughts, Hassan, on some of the players that we've seen on and who we would expect to see on Sunday? Do you expect to see Dominic Szoboszlai? The ones that are touted to be maybes for Sunday is Szoboszlai, Salah and Nunez. Do you see any of them starting, or are you confident in the team that we will be able to field without them?
I think it will be tactical, and I think we'll start with the same 11 we started before, and we will have the options of these dynamic players coming off the bench if they are needed, and we have to look ahead also. So, and for their benefit and their fitness, maybe they will be called upon when needed the most, because the second half performance, the way team played, uh, they need to be given more confidence boost. So maybe Salah came in, but I think the same 11 will start, and these players will be come on if needed.
Yeah, it is. We obviously have Paul mentioned in here, he doesn't want Everton to go down. I'd love them to finish in 17th place. It all depends on if they get another sanction of points. Forest are due to receive a sanction of points that could see them go down because they're only on the fringe of the relegation zone at the moment. If they get a 9-point deduction, they're smack in the middle of it. They're actually, funnily enough, in 19th if they get a 9-point deduction as it stands at the moment. But Willem, it's an interesting one to think about because, to my mind, the injury, the fatigue that occurred to Salah and the possible injury that occurred to Nunez, or whatever Nunez felt, as it was said in the group chat earlier on today, if that was a Champions League final that's occurring on Sunday, they'd play, or was occurring on Wednesday, should I say, they would have played. But because it was Luton, and no disrespect to Luton, they really were a very, very good side in the first half. Just we decided to wake up and go into sixth gear in the second half, and just the talent difference between both sides just really showed. It's not a disrespect to Luton at all, but if do you see any of them starting? Do you see Szoboszlai starting? We know he's streaming at the moment because sure, what else is he going to do? And we also have Nunez as well, and we've Salah that has a bit of fatigue after coming back from his stint off the pitch as well. Do you foresee any of them starting, or maybe coming off the bench as relief, maybe in the second half, similarly to how Subs came on and impacted in the game against Luton?
I think. I'm not sure yet on the whole starting or if they're going to come off the bench, but I do think Salah and Nunez will both definitely be involved on Sunday. I don't, unless one of them really have, like, maybe if Mo really has a bad fatigue problem coming back up, because we still don't even know what Nunez has, to be fair. Like, as in nothing's been specified on it. They've just said he felt something. We don't know. It might be an injury. It might not be. So it's been very vague as well.
Yeah.
And both as well, for me, are more in contention of actually being a part of the game because they've also still been playing football quite recently. I don't see how Dom comes back for this game, just purely more in the sense as well that he's been out for weeks. And then to I think, almost to insert him now immediately into the starting lineup, having had maybe a training session at most. I mean, it's madness. So, like, and even coming off the bench, I'm not too sure that I can even see that happening at the moment. Whereas I think Nunez, like, for me, has to be involved as well, because the problem is that we didn't have it against Luton necessarily, but and again, no disrespect to Luton, and not that they're much better, but Chelsea are a bit better than them. And I think, you know, if we do get to a point where our current attackers that we have available do get a little bit stale, we do always have the option of Nunez at least coming on, or at least being involved there and being absolutely chaotic and nobody knowing what the hell is going to happen. Whereas I think we can be quite predictable with the players that we have available at the moment. Also due more just in the general importance of the game, I think it's going to be way more likely that Salah and Nunez are involved than Dom will be. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, no. It makes sense. Don't worry, it makes sense. Dean, Paul mentions here that Szoboszlai and Darwin should not start. Obviously, I don't think Szoboszlai is going to be involved in the game at all. He hasn't really trained at all. The game may go to extra time and penalties. Then we would need them, and they can't play 120 minutes plus. Is that what we should be in the mentality of, is planning for an extra time and penalties? Or obviously, should this team be prepared to finish this in 90 minutes in regulation?
I know the
considering how
team.
last finals have went like.
Yeah. I know the team are preparing for penalties because it's come out they've been using that German neurological science brain thing again for the penalties. Saw it earlier on. So they're always getting prepared for it just in case. I think if you said to Jurgen, do you want a 90-minute game, you bite your hand off at the end of the day because we can't afford any extra fatigue, any extra injuries. And with us playing midweek next week, we really could do with avoiding an extra 30 odd minutes of football. So a 90-minute game is going to be vital for us, in all honesty. I was going to say Szoboszlai makes no sense to be even on the bench just because he hasn't trained at all. He seems to be the less likely of the three. I think he's more a Forest type of game comeback next weekend. I think that makes more sense. Another week, hopefully, had a few training sessions and whatnot. It'd be ideal to have both the other lads on the bench just to come on. I don't think Jurgen will start either of them, but it will be a last minute decision, as you already said. Even after the game, he was very much. I don't even know who the lads who started on Wednesday who could start because they were knackered. Some of them were Elliot collapsed on the floor like he did against Fulham because he was absolutely shattered. So you could easily see Salah playing half a game and then getting subbed off. You never know. It'll be one of them rare occasions where Jurgen doesn't know his 11 until literally like half an hour before the game. You don't know. But yeah, it makes the most sense to have them both on the bench just to come on, and then hopefully we can get the game won in 90 minutes. I don't think I could take another penalty shootout. So I never thought I'd ever say it. I'm bored of the penalties in the final against Chelsea. It's a bit balmy when you think of it that way, but yeah, I don't think this will be a 0-0. I think there will be goals in this one just because both sides, well, we score more goals and Chelsea aren't as solid as they were when we played them before. Yes, okay, they defended quite well against City, but City camped them in there off and they missed 4 sitters. Haaland could have had a hat-trick in that game. And I think if any of our lads, especially like Nunez or Salah, get that type of chances, we do score. So I reckon it'll be a 90-minute game, and I reckon with them lads, we should see through.
Yeah, it is. See, Chelsea have been kind of up and down their past number of games. Since 30th of December, 3-2 to Luton, 1-0 to Fulham, 3-2 win at Luton, 1-0 win at home to Fulham, 4-1 loss at Anfield, 4-2 loss at home to Wolves, which is hilarious. 3-1 win over Palace away, and a 1-1 draw against City, which commendments to Chelsea for that. They defended very, very well, but as you said, Haaland could have had 4 goals in that game. He just missed sitter after sitter after sitter. It was hilarious. But look, we'll take the points drop from them. Thank you very much for that. They're very much a hot and cold team as it is at the moment. I know, Paul, you mentioned here Szoboszlai on the bench just in case penalty. He's not trained. He's not even been in an active training session. It'd actually be egregiously dangerous to put him on, because even for 2 minutes, because he could end up pulling something and worsening the injury. I as much as I love the optimism in that, I just in having him on for penalties, I wouldn't risk it. There's plenty of penalty takers that are on that team. And as well, this Palmer is the key, and I think that Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate are going to absolutely maul anybody that comes through that line. Mudryk isn't going to run anywhere. Palmer is going to get bullied. Who else does it have? Sterling, he runs like Velma out of Scooby-Doo. He'll get bodied. Then who else there? Nicholas Jackson. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. They're very much a shaky side, and they really do let goals in. Like that Luton team put 2 past them, and it took. Let me just check when were the goals in that game, because I'm nearly sure they got a late winner in that just to get through.
Well, they were like 3-0 up, and then Luton almost came back and equalised to 3-3.
Yeah, there were 12-minute and 70-minute goals, 12-minute, 37-minute, and 70-minute goals. Cole Palmer got 2 goals and an assist. Nicholas Jackson got an assist, and Noni Madueke got a goal in the 37 minutes. Then Ross Barkley and Adebayo got goals in the 80th and the 87th minute. And Chelsea looked very vulnerable in those last couple of minutes. Hilariously, so did United against Luton the last day. Luton, I really hope Luton stay up. They are a genuinely really, really, really good team. Of course, he's practicing his penalty taking. Are you joking me? We're not going to give him the Kai Havertz treatment, though. Thankfully, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. That was so pathetic. It was hilarious. But it is an interesting one, because I could see our starting 11 just having Kelleher in goal, and then our two centre halves be Van Dijk and Konate, and that's just a brick wall. You're not getting through that. That's two titans sitting in the middle of your defense there, and then we'd have probably Connor Bradley on one side, and Andy Robertson on the other, just to be a little bit more solid defensively, if that makes sense. Or we could very easily see Joe Gomez in one of those positions as well. I don't think our back line is anything to be worried about specifically. Our midfield, I could very easily see it being the same as it was last week or against Luton with Endo, McAllister and Ryan Gravenberch. I thought that played fantastically well. Ryan Gravenberch had a half of his life in the second half. He played very, very well. And then our front three, again, it's more so wondering who plays where, because if Elliott is absolutely out in his legs, who do you put in at that right winger position? Do you put Salah in there? Do you put somebody else in there? Maybe move Diaz over there and have Darwin on the left, and then halfway through the game bring Salah on at half time, and then put Salah on the right and move Diaz back to the left. There's going to be a lot of interchange in there, I feel, in the front line. I think everything up until Ryan Gravenberch's position is locked in. We don't necessarily have to worry about that, but I believe in the depth of the squad. If we play like we did in the second half against Luton, and I understand it's Luton, and again, no disrespect to Luton, but they are in the position that they're in because of the quality that they have. We beat anybody. That 11 that was on the pitch and the subs that came on beats anybody in this league handsomely. I don't think there's any worry about that whatsoever. My only worry is with this being a final, you can just basically throw form out the window because you're both going to a neutral ground. You're both playing, it's win or go home. This is it. This is the end of it. And Chelsea could come out like a team with nothing to lose. Oh, if we lose, we were expected to lose. We don't care. If we win, we upset Liverpool. They don't get their quadruple. That'd be my only worry. A team that has nothing to lose is a very dangerous team. And that's just the way that I look at it. Hopefully now my Mystic Mac skills have spoken and manifested into existence a win on Sunday, and we'll all be happy out in the post-game stream. But it remains to be seen at the moment. I'm going to remain optimistic, and I hope everybody else is too. We'll move on to our next topic now, which is our Europa League draw. But before we move on to that, just please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really does help out the channel. We very much appreciate it. Have your notifications on for all future videos and streams so that you never miss out on a live stream or a video. We will be live again tomorrow from 7:30 UK time for our Carabao Cup final preview. And we will be live at 5 p.m. on Sunday following our Carabao Cup final, and again at 7:30 on Sunday evening UK time for our normal Sunday night stream. So make sure you have your notifications on so you don't miss out on any of those and any celebrations that may occur. But away from the domestic cups and the domestic tournaments at the moment, and we have our Europa League draw. We are travelling to Sparta Praga, where we will play Sparta Praga. Away fixture, first of all, on 7th of March at 5:45 in the evening, and the return fixture then takes place on the 14th of March, Paddy's week. Very happy week for me, at 8 p.m. Hilariously, the 3 days before we're meant to play Everton, which is the game that could be postponed and be a blank Premier League game for us if we beat Southampton midweek next week. So lots of changing and chopping of fixtures that are occurring there. But the draw itself, Dean, were you happy with the team that we got? Would you have considered it, what's the nicest way you could put this, a softer schedule than most? Were you dreading the likes of maybe receiving somebody like Sporting or Benfica or somebody like that we'd probably have to go and put out a strong enough team? Or do you think Praga deserves the respect of having a strong team put out?
There was 3 options going into that draw that I was more than happy with. One was Freiburg, just because they aren't having a great season and they're a bit hit and miss in the Europa League, but they got through. But then obviously the travel is very light in comparison. The second option was Sparta Prague, just because on paper, yes, they've only lost once this season, but not too far to travel, and like I say, on paper, not the strongest of teams in comparison to the others. The third option actually was Sporting Lisbon, just for the pure fact we would have had to play them on a Tuesday because of the clash with Benfica. That was the only reason I would have had them. That would have been a bit better for us, given a few extra days. But yeah, overall, quite happy with Sparta Prague. It's one we can afford to rotate a couple of lads in there. I know we have been there. Was it 2010, 2011? Was it 2012? Something like that? We went there and won. Obviously, a different side completely. Because yeah, I can't really have asked for any more, really. I wanted to avoid the likes of Marseille just because they're a tricky customer. I don't want our fans to experience France anytime soon after recent exploits. Also, didn't really want Benfica, just got a few good players. Milan, obviously, with Rafael Leao, and obviously their
Yeah.
goalie, and some really good players in there. So I'm glad to avoid them. So out of the rest of them, they were probably the ones I went for. Bar Freiburg would have been my perfect one. But yeah, definitely take this one.
Yeah. Leverkusen will getting Karabakh over in Azerbaijan. That's a bit of a jaunt. Now, I don't expect Leverkusen to falter there or fall there at all, but that was the most unkind of fixtures, so to speak, with regards to travel time, especially with a game taking place quite early in the day. If it's 5:45 with the first leg being away, they're ahead by quite a bit, so they'd be playing nearly 9 o'clock at night. Thereabouts. I don't know how far ahead Azerbaijan is in time frame. I'm trying to think of the Formula One races and what time they start.
I think it's 1 or 2 hours, something like that.
Is it only 1 or 2?
I think
Because
so.
Italy is like an hour ahead of me.
Oh wait,
So
you're doing from. Sorry, hold on. You're doing
I'm
from
doing from
UK
the UK
time.
or Ireland. Yeah,
I'm obviously doing Spain time. So that's also I'm an hour ahead. So I keep forgetting
so
that.
I think it's about 4 hours ahead of us. So it'd have been 8:45. That game would be starting. They wouldn't be finished till quite late, and they'd probably be playing at the weekend as well. It's not the nicest place to go with regards to travel. That'd be my only worry with them. Do you foresee any upsets out of the matches that were shown, or like maybe Roma goes out, maybe Brighton goes out, maybe West Ham goes out, some of the top seeds, so to speak?
From what I can remember, because I'm not going to lie, the fact that we literally got the first draw, it meant because I was at work and I just kind of had it whilst I had my earphones in, I put on the draw at the same time. So I pretty much, the minute I heard Sparta Prague and then Liverpool, I just turned it off again because I was like, all right, I can focus now again and keep on going. But from what I remember, I think it's Roma against Brighton. I think Brighton can definitely upset Roma because
Yeah,
I feel like Roma, even though they are a good cup team because they did get to the final as well last year, and they won the Conference League I think the year before that. Even with that, I think now with their managerial change that they've got at the moment, De Rossi's trying to play a bit more of attacking football, and I think actually there's quite a few teams in the competition who benefit from that change of style of play. For the rest, I mean, upset-wise, I don't think Karabakh will upset Leverkusen at any point. I don't think... Who are West Ham playing? Freiburg, was it? Or someone else?
yeah. SC Freiburg is who they're playing.
Well,
Decent enough team, but
Freiburg could do West Ham, especially if they're not going to sack Moyes and they're going to keep on kind of going on in this slump. It could definitely backfire on them. So
yeah,
can also see that happen. I'd probably take Freiburg then as well. Freiburg and Brighton probably as the two upsets in that round. Also, genuinely because apart from Marseille against Villarreal, I can't really remember any of the other games. So and neither of them winning is going to be exactly an upset because they're about the same level.
I'm trying to think. Is there any Rangers maybe getting in there? Might be one that could get through as well.
Rangers are playing Milan, is it?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Benfica.
No.
Benfica. Rangers are playing Benfica.
Oh, Benfica. Okay, Benfica maybe. If it was Milan, I would no way. Benfica, who knows? Benfica are very hot and cold in Europe this year, so they could go either way.
Yeah, there's a lot of fixtures that could really go either way there. There's obviously, I think it was just hilarious how our coefficient was like 50,000 points above anybody else when the initial seeding occurred, which is hilarious considering. But Hassan, are you anyway worried that this could be kind of a trap game, that we may not go into this all that prepared, considering we're hitting kind of an injury slump at the moment? Some players are due to come back, but some, like the likes of Alisson, the likes of Diogo Jota, Curtis Jones, Trent Alexander-Arnold, they're due to miss both of these legs of this game. And could you see that hurting us, or are you happy with the outfit that we have at the moment?
No, I'm happy because, as you said, we could have got Karabakh and to travel a lot. It's not that far away. We could have other teams like Marseille, who can, with their fans at their home, could have been a tricky tie. But I think overall the draws are really good, and I think uh, uh, Sparta, I think, is leading their domestic
Yeah, they are. Paul mentioned it
league
here.
as well. Yeah, so they are a good team, but there will be uh, a good uh, fight from us, and with the players' injuries, if we got a really tough match, it would have been tricky. But with Sparta, I am really confident.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to think who was the. I'm going to have a look at the draws here. 1 second now. Europa League round of 16 draw. Who is where and what is playing? So we'll run through them when we see, because I don't think we really had them. So we have Liverpool, Sparta Praha and Liverpool, Sparta Prague and Liverpool, Roma and Brighton, Freiburg and West Ham, Milan and Slavia Praga. So I guess we'll both be in Prague at the same time, us and Milan. Marseille and Villarreal, Benfica and Rangers, Sporting CP and Atalanta, and Karabag and Leverkusen. Possibly the biggest one out of that would be an upset is Karabag knocking out Leverkusen, but I can't see that happening without a complete collapse. I'm just trying to think, is there anybody there that would really... They all seem to be fairly even, given their form as it is at the moment. Marseille and Villarreal are about the same, realistically. Brighton and Roma. Roma are under a new manager, may get a bit of a bounce from that. Milan, I can't see losing that game either. And I'd strongly suspect us to win that game as well. It's a shame that I can't go to that game over in the Czech Republic, because that would be unreal. For anybody that hasn't been to the Czech Republic, the beer is good, but the women are better. That's just the way that I look at it.
I was going to say I'm going to be very jealous of the fans who are going to have an away day in Prague, because Prague is a mental one.
It's a fantastic city. It really is a fantastic city. I'm looking to go. I've never been myself, but mates of mine have been, and the pictures that I've seen of pubs and just beer that size costing you maybe €3.
80 cents, mate.
Oh, stop. Oh God above. I was over in Amsterdam last year for the Ajax game where we won like 4-2 or 4-1. I can't remember what the ending score was because I seen 6 TVs by the time that it was finished. But it was great. Genuinely, it was great. And waddling home in the middle of the night in Amsterdam is quite an experience. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's quite an experience. It was fun times. I will not be going with those group of lads again because they are the bane of my existence, and all they wanted to do was drink. And I will tell you now, if I wanted to sit in the pub all day and drink, I could have stayed at home and done that. But Prague is a bit of a different story. I don't foresee any upsets myself. It's one of them where everybody is it's like the first seed against the bottom seed in a lot of them. I don't see any upsets. The home advantage is going to play really, really well. I think Karabag have the best home advantage purely from how far people will have to travel. And then we also have another seeding event that's going to occur after this round again for the quarterfinals. And then after that, it's a free-for-all. It's everything is seeded from that point onwards. But I just go around and ask the last question of the evening before. A pint in London is 13 quid. Jesus Christ.
I'd move if I were there.
That's chronic, JBs. That's robbery. What are they are they brewing it in front of you? Like, that's absolutely chronic. Like, the most you pay for a pint in Ireland is maybe €10, and that's in rip-off Republic places. In Dublin, like places called Temple Bar, where a lot of Liverpool fans will be drinking come the end of May when we're in Dublin. I will not be going anywhere near that place because I know where all the cheap beer is. So if anybody's coming over, do give us a shout. I'll show you where the cheap beer is. But I don't foresee anybody getting knocked out there. Realistically, I suppose, the question I'll throw out, is there anybody outside of Leverkusen, Dean, is there anybody you don't want to meet in the quarterfinal?
Milan or Sporting. Milan just because of pure experience, as Giroud got that European experience. Leao's a talent, like I said before. They've got a decent squad. They probably could have got through in the Champions League. Just a couple of things didn't swing their way in regards to PSG and Newcastle. Um, Sporting just because the scoring goals for fun at the moment. Not the same level as Leverkusen, but like that is a Gerakash who used to play for Coventry. Is scored like 20 odd goals. Obviously, a potential managerial candidate, whether we like it or not, is also running Sporting at the moment. I kind of wanted them to get Leverkusen, a bit like a Klopp replacement Derby type of thing. See who deserves the right type of
in the next round yet.
Yeah, good goals, yeah. But yeah, they're a good, it's quite a fun team to watch at the moment. Sporting, I've watched quite a bit of them recently, especially since we've been linked with their manager. And it would be a tricky customer, especially while we've got some injury issues. So I was quite glad we missed getting them to a point. I know I mentioned that travel schedule would have been a bit easier, but other than that, then that's really it. Who were the group winners other than themselves, obviously?
Us, Roma, us, Roma,
Brighton,
West Ham.
Yeah. West Ham. No, it's us, Brighton, West Ham, Milan.
No, Milan came out of the Champions League.
Milan came down.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
West Ham, Rangers, Liverpool, Slavia Praha, Brighton, Atalanta, Villarreal, and Leverkusen. That's the winners.
I say it's just Leverkusen and Sporting and Milan. They're like the four that stand out to me personally. And then you got a couple of like Atalanta, but obviously Sporting play them. And then Villarreal are always a bit of a tricky customer, but they're not the same levels they were when we played them in the semi-final of the Champions League. So it's still comfortably back us against them as well. So it's just them four are the main ones.
Yeah, it's you'd hope before we reach the final, a couple of the bigger dogs knock each other out, which is kind of what we're hoping for with the remainder of the Premier League, considering who City have to play and who Arsenal have to play. Just seen Paul asking for a prediction for Arsenal v Newcastle. I think Arsenal win that game. Newcastle are just so suspect at the back at the moment. But Willem and Hassan, I'll throw the same question to you. Willem first. Is there anybody out of that group you wouldn't want to see in the round of the quarterfinals?
Leverkusen, Sporting, and I'd probably say in general the Italian teams, because I just don't like playing Italian teams, and that's it. But apart from that, it just kind of finishes there. And to be fair, the only one that I truly fear is actually Leverkusen. Yeah, and that's it, because Leverkusen is just showing that they can go toe-to-toe with anyone pretty much. So I'd say that for a side note as well, for Paul, with the prediction for Arsenal Newcastle, going for a Desmond just because I can. So that's why. 2-2.
Dean, we didn't get a prediction from you before we go to Hassan to finish off the stream. Newcastle Arsenal prediction that Paul is asking about. Dean.
Oh, sorry. I think Arsenal are going to win 4-1, honestly. I think they're going to smash them. It depends on how Newcastle approach it, but they're so poor at the moment. Too many injuries, like losing a key players.
Even though Arsenal hadn't a shot on target in 95 minutes against Porto over midweek.
I'm not basing any of it on logic, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there.
If anything, it gives them a reason to bounce back, doesn't it? You know, that they're in the title race. They know they've got to win all their games. So Newcastle is so hit and miss. Like that one game they'll turn up and put a decent performance in, and then the next they look like they could lose to anybody. So their season's kind of dwindled away, Antis, in all honesty. It's just literally mid-table, and that's it for them. Arsenal are going for something. So I don't want them to do well, but I do think they're going to turn it up and win comfortably.
Yeah, the Newcastle just aren't scoring goals at the minute. Anthony Gordon is going to be starting up front for them. So if you have him in FPL, you'll probably get a nice haul of goals if any do come through for the next foreseeable future. Hassan, I'll throw the two questions at you as well before we finish up for today. Anybody from that list of teams in Europa that you would not like us to face, and also give us your prediction for Arsenal and Newcastle?
Yeah, I'm looking at the fixture. I think Leverkusen, Sporting, Milan, these are the teams which we should avoid, or maybe should get, or so we can, eliminate them before the until the final, semi-final and final. And for Arsenal and Newcastle, I hope it's a draw because uh, they lost the game against Porto, and their confidence for they must be a bit shaky. And now for them, they know that they have to win every game. Maybe pressure gets to them, and Tyndall pieces of Arteta, maybe something like that, and they capitulate like we hope they do.
Yeah, let's hope they do capitulate. I'd have to agree with everybody. The only people that I'd really be fearful of coming out of those matchups that there is at the moment would probably be Bayern, Leverkusen at the moment, maybe Sporting as well. Milan, just they can go on a tear. They have Giroud up top, obviously. They have Rafael Leao as well, who I think is probably one of the best winger prospects in the world at the moment. Paul, as you mentioned here as well, for the Newcastle game at the weekend, and Arsenal have a good 11, but their bench is suspect, which is why I think the reintroduction to Champions League football might actually hurt them in the long run and the lead up to the end of the season. I think that might be their downfall. And I called it at the start of the season. I said, if they go far in the Champions League, that will derail their season. And speaking of which, as it stands at the moment, if Arsenal win every game in the Premier League for the rest of the season, they finish on 91 points. That means City will lose a game. If Liverpool win every game but lose to City, Liverpool will finish on 93 points. And if City win every game except for that Arsenal game, or if they lose to Liverpool as well, City will finish on 89 to 92 points, meaning that all we need is one City loss, and for us to win out and still have a loss there to play with, 3 points to play with, we could draw a game and still be fine. But if you want to join me in Delulu land, it's become impossible.
Let's just focus on the Carabao Cup, mate. Just for now.
Not at all. Got to think big, Dean. Got to think big. The way you need to look at it. We're going for everything. We're winning the lot. Fuck it. We're winning the lot. That's going to give me ulcer and heart issues. All right, hey, look, I'm a Liverpool fan and I'm a 49ers fan. Anybody that watched the Super Bowl, I am now ready to talk about it because I have gone through my therapy. But anybody that watched the Super Bowl and seen that the 49ers lost it with 3 seconds to go, it's taken me a while to kind of get over it. So, look, if being a Liverpool fan and being a San Francisco 49ers fan, your heart goes through it. So that's where I leave it. If I don't die from a heart attack by the age of 55, I'm not doing it right. That's it. 100% goal. I completely agree with you, Paul. Goal difference is a major thing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win by 1 goal or 10 goals. You're still getting 3 points. At the end of the day, 3 points is all that matters to me. I don't care how we perform. I don't care how we do in the game, as long as we come out and win it at the end. That's all that necessarily matters. But I do agree, though, we need to keep we need to keep the foot down. We need to keep scoring. We need to keep winning these games, and we will be celebrating. All of the LSC transfer room that is able to come over to Dublin will be celebrating in Dublin, and we will be having a great laugh watching the Europa League final, hopefully. But that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Really does help the channel out. We really do appreciate all the support. Have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. We will be live again from tomorrow for our Carabao Cup preview from 7:30 p.m. UK time. We'll be live again then from 5 p.m. UK time after the Carabao Cup game, and then from 7:30 UK time in the evening on Sunday for our normal regular stream as well. Hopefully all celebrating and falling about the place drunk. Other than that, thanks everybody so much for joining us, from myself, from Hassan, from Willem, from Dean. Thank you all for joining us on this Friday evening, afternoon or night, wherever you may find yourself on the planet, and we hope everybody has a lovely weekend and a great result on Sunday. Thanks so much, guys.